Welcome back to another episode of the Counterculture Podcast. I'm your host, Christian, along with my great friend and co-host and conspiracy theorist, Taylor.
Just for today.
How's it going?
Doing pretty good. I feel like I can read your thoughts. What about you?
I feel like we're in sync.
Not the boy band.
No, not the boy band, unfortunately.
It's almost like we can finish each other's
Sentences.
sandwiches, but yeah.
Ooh, so close.
But yeah, we got a fun one for you today.
Yeah, it's hard to know, but we're gonna get into some
murky water,
conspiracy territory. Well, first, we were talking about what we wanted to talk about this week, and we've been wrestling around with the idea of doing talking about our favorite conspiracy theories, which I think we'll get to, but part of what inspired this is what's happening right now is there's this movie out currently, right? You may have heard of it, called the Sound of Freedom, right? That is blowing up, right? It's very popular. Every screening of it is packed.
Yeah, but there's a lot going on with it.
There's some shady stuff. Have you been seeing those videos too?
But like the movie theaters, like making people wait, turning the AC off, trying to refund tickets. Like there's a lot.
Yeah, like weird stuff. Or like during the credits, like Jim Caviezel, the actor, like there's some message that he's talking about, and like there's some theaters that are just shutting off the sound, right?
So you can't hear.
So you can't hear what he's saying. Right? I like who knows? Maybe these are just coincidences. I think maybe not. It's hard to say, right? But
then you look at the way the media is reporting on it too, and it's like a united front from anything other than the right side.
Correct. And
to try to shut it down. I don't know.
Here's the thing.
I've not seen it, but
yes,
I plan to.
I've not had the opportunity to see it yet. Again, it's difficult to go to the movies when you have 3 children that are young and have to be watched by someone for 2 or 3 hours.
I told you this earlier because I was like, I almost went and saw a matinee during lunch today, just at work, just like went in. I made the mistake of telling my wife that I almost went and saw it, and she about chewed my head off for something that, for a crime I didn't even commit. This is like Minority Report, like happening live, coming at you live. But she was like mad that I even contemplated seeing it without her. I'm like, it's so much easier to spend $7 on a matinee ticket and me seeing it during lunch than, like you were saying, the whole process. So fingers crossed that Musk can bring it to Twitter or something. We can watch it there.
Yeah. Or, I mean, I'm sure it'll be on, a couple streaming services here soon.
I don't know. Disney Plus didn't want it. Netflix has said no, which is interesting because they had no problem supporting and actually promoting Cuties, but they don't want the Sound of Freedom.
Weird stuff. Weird stuff. I think a lot of stuff ends up on like Amazon Prime actually and other things. So I'm sure there'll be ways to stream it. Again, hopefully, I guess we'll find out.
Torrent, LimeWire, bring it back.
Oh, LimeWire, man.
Aries.
Oh man. And then what was the other one?
So many viruses.
Napster. Do you remember Napster?
Yeah, but Napster was like you had to pay for it.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, no, LimeWire was like the legit
that was like
pirating music.
That was
not that I ever did that.
Dirty torrent. Like it was. Half the stuff didn't work. It was in different file types, or you download something and you actually start to listen to it, and it was not what you thought you downloaded. Like just people trolling. Like, yeah, good times. That was part of my growing up. See, we grew up that way, learning that the internet wasn't all fun and games. And now kids grow up and they think it's just
all TikToks,
easy. But we know that there is a dark side to the internet, which goes back to the whole Sound of Freedom and everything else.
There is a very, very dark side of the internet.
Kids just think it's just another amenity, like another utility at their disposal. They just, I don't know, they can't live without it. So I don't know, maybe they're just not aware to the horrors that are lying in wait for them.
Yeah, I think that's the case. And what's really interesting is, again, those of y'all that are watching and listening, you probably, like, we're not telling you anything you don't know, but the subject that Sound of Freedom is focusing on really should be a very non-political or non.
Sorry, my signal wasn't that good.
or non, it should be a very uniting cause, right?
Yeah. It's like why would anybody oppose what's happening?
Right. Like, what person would be in favor of human trafficking, specifically the trafficking of children?
Well, you say that, but didn't California's Senate or whatever just shut down? Was it SB 14 or something like that? Forget what the actual bill was. But
yes. So,
basically, it was making child trafficking a felony.
Right. And correct. So yeah, there was a bill going up where I don't know why it wasn't a felony in the first place, but yeah, it would make child trafficking a felony in the state of California, and it was struck down. And actually, in my family group text, we were talking about it this today. And what's funny is that family members that are in this group text were like, "I just don't understand why. Like, why would they do this?" And I was busy, so I didn't respond. But it just points to how.
Did you leave them unread? I'm just kidding.
No, I only do that to you.
At least I get through.
Oh man. But what it displays is how bifurcated, right, our country is.
Big words.
Is just because it just shows, it's like because people that are quasi right wing or let's just say outright on the right see the movie and say, "Hey, this is really important. Like, you should go see this." People on the left immediately are like, "Nope. It's terrible. Right? It's conspiracy theory. Right? This isn't happening. Right? This is just for QAnon. Conspiracy boomers. Right? It's like."
But they don't care about anything else.
What are you talking about? Yeah, it's like it's so strange.
For one, it's a true story. So if you don't want to believe all the stats, then just be like, okay, this is a true story, but maybe the bigger picture it's alluding to, maybe that's not confirmed. Still, but the base story itself is bringing awareness to an issue that is proven. I mean, Houston is a hub.
It's one of the largest hubs for human trafficking in the entire world.
Watch the movie. Just from what I've watched and heard, like, they find trucks and containers full of kids. Like, it's not like this, the veil behind the curtain's already been pulled off. Like, we're just, I guess, putting our heads in the sand to it. This movie's bringing awareness to it. But just to say it's a flat out conspiracy theory. But even then, even if that was the case, what does it matter to the left? I mean, so many shows and movies that come out, like Man in the High Tower, talking about, like, what if the Nazis won the war?
That's a good
what
show.
About, like...
That is a good show.
What's the one? The Netflix one James Franco did a couple years back. It was a series, one season about JFK and the assassination.
Oh, I didn't see
this. It's like 1984. Not 84 because he died before that, but 1960.
63 or whatever?
That's
whatever. The year, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, but that's the name of the show. But, like, my point is, not to go into that, but it's like they're talking about the man on the grassy knoll. Like, they're talking about all this. Like, nobody came out saying, like, if you watch this, that you're a right-wing conspiracy theorist. And that was like, it's just entertainment. It's just bringing awareness to something. Like, you can ask questions, whatever. But this, they have such a big issue for it, and makes you wonder why.
Yeah. Well, what's funny about it is the story, like you said, is based on a true story of what Tim Ballard did in this. I believe it's in Colombia where this takes place. And what's funny is I saw this today or yesterday. There was a side-by-side snapshot of the Guardian from the newspaper, right, or news site. I think I saw that one too. Yeah, like talking specifically about this happening in 2018, how it was happening and all about it and all kind of stuff. And then right next to it was Sound of Freedom is just for QAnon conspiracy theory boomers, right? It's like you literally were talking about this 5 years ago when it was actually happening. And now we're going to pretend like you said, like it's not happening. Like it's like, just
I think
ridiculous.
It was CNN that, like, back when that was actual news, was congratulating, calling him a hero. And now you have the same hosts or whatever that are on being like, oh, this QAnon's, adjacent movie.
Yeah. It's so stupid. Right. And it's like, it's like, and part of it is too is because the actor Jim Caviezel, right, best known for he was played Jesus in Passion of the Christ. He also played well, I know this because I watched it with Christina this weekend. Edmond Dantes in the Count of Monte Cristo. Right, I'd never seen that movie until
haven't.
Well, until this past weekend.
Sheltered Boy.
Yeah, it was very good.
It's good.
It's very good. Like very, very good. I was
It's like the ultimate revenge story.
Yeah.
About patience and being conniving.
Like tactical, right?
Yeah.
Very good, right? Like Jim Caviezel's in it. Guy Pearce, very underrated actor. Who's the bad guy? Fernando or whatever.
Who's the guy that I like? He's the Hispanic guy. Usually heavy set, but this is when he was younger. He's the pirate.
He's a Jacopo.
Yeah.
But when I saw him, because of how I've seen him in recent movies, like you said, he's bigger. He's kind of a comedic relief. To see him in kind of like a dramatic role was kind of weird, because I'm not used to seeing this guy. He's always like very goofy, but he's good. He's good. And also like a very young Henry Cavill.
Oh, that's right. He's the son.
He's the son. Yeah, which is really weird to see. You know, it's really weird because of course
I grew up with that, Superman. So it wasn't weird. But knowing what you now going back and watching, you're like, have I been under a rock?
But also the priest who or the guy who plays the priest in the prison is the original Dumbledore from the first two.
Christopher Harris or whatever.
Richard Harris. Yeah, you were close. In the first, I think he's in the first two Harry Potter. I think.
Yeah, because he died.
Right, and then the third one is when they brought in the newer.
How did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire? Dumbledore asked gently is what it says in the book.
Yeah, it just you need.
They
the
give
drama.
that actor a lot of.
You need the
liberty.
drama in the movie. Like it just wouldn't have worked as well.
Apparently.
Yeah, I've always seen that like joke. It's like Dumbledore asked like in a melancholy tone. Did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire, Harry?
Harry, did you put your name in the
goblet? Yeah, in the movie he like grabs him. He's like what's wrong? Just like strangle him. Oh man. So anyway, and what's interesting is of course you like Jim Caviezel, who's an actor, was kind of blackballed from Hollywood because of playing Jesus in The Passion of the Christ, and then kind of being overtly Christian, right? Not really hiding it after a while.
I think he was also in that show Persons of Interest or something.
Yes, but I think wasn't in the 90s though, or was that in the early 2000s?
Like 2010 through 2015.
Was it that recent?
Yeah,
I thought it was older than that.
No.
Okay, but yeah, I heard he's actually very good in that show, Person of Interest.
See, that's where I recognized him from because I've never actually seen The Passion, so
it's worth a watch for every person at least one time, right? You probably won't be able to watch
Mel
it after
Gibson,
that.
so.
Yeah, he's right. So speaking of that, right? Mel Gibson was someone who spoke out about the film.
You like my segues?
I do like your segues, right? They're very smooth. But he talked about why you should see this movie, all this kind of stuff. And so of course that's another
2011.
He's another
5 seasons. So I was close.
Oh yeah, so 2011 to 2015.
I said 2010 at first.
Yeah,
you said the 90s.
I thought it was like a 90s or early 2000s show because I'd never seen it, but I know that he's popular in that show that people said it was.
But yeah, other than that, in The Passion, you're right. He's been kind of
blackballed, right? And he's a good actor. He's quite good.
He's talking about like a CBS show. Like you went from something as big as The Passion, where you were the main character, to a TV show that ran for 5 seasons. That wasn't even, it was okay from the little bit I watched, but I think a season or two. But
yeah, so. All these things come together, and I think it's just the reaction. And what's odd is, and this is what the left tends to do, is that when things are actually like grassroots, seeming to be popular with the average American, they like just hate it, and it's so stupid.
It's the unity.
Yeah, they hate that the average American, right? Because again, you have people that have that are more right leaning, more left leaning. But again, the average American, if you talk about certain things like this topic, right, of trafficking children, they're gonna be like, yeah, this is bad.
Yeah.
Right. And any idea of being able to unify behind something, it's ridiculous. And that was what's really funny. And one of the best things that President Trump did during his presidency was the things that he did to help fight human trafficking and specifically child trafficking, right? Because arrests and all these kind of things, I was listening to someone talk about this, were up like exponentially, right? All these arrests and everything for these task
even just the amount of people who weren't crossing the border, which is a major factor in getting these kids in. Like, some of the stuff that that's been coming out interview wise since Sound of Freedom has been out, where what's his name? The main guy, Tim Ballard.
So it's Tim Ballard and Jim Caviezel. Yeah,
they've been on a lot of interviews together.
Yes, a lot.
And they were talking about just how even like the Port of Houston, like even there's like HPD and stuff, like even some of these things are like either inside or some people like either know about it, and it's like you hope to God that none of that's true, but you got to ask yourself, if it's such a large industry, it's like who's consuming it and who's allowing it to happen.
And that's where the question comes from, because again, it goes to like what my, in our group chat today with my family and talking like, how can they let this happen? And it's like, that is the question, is who and why would you let this happen, or kind of turn a blind eye, especially in the case of California, like not making it a felony, basically saying we don't take this seriously or don't care, right?
But yeah,
and so
in regards to California, it's like, who had an issue with that? It's not like you're debating capital punishment for that crime.
Mm-hmm.
You're just trying to make it.
You should be murdered.
Well, we're from Texas. So.
Yeah, so.
Jaywalk.
Firing squad.
But yeah, it's not like they're dealing with something that's so aggressive that way. I mean, this should be a very basic issue, cut and dry, like no shades of gray. It's just black or white. It's like, okay, you've done something like child sex trafficking. That's a felony. It's not like a speeding ticket, Class C misdemeanor or something. Like this should be a big deal. You should go to jail. I mean, kidnapping, murder, like anything else, like armed robbery, like they're all taken seriously, but like
well, not in California, but
if you're probably, I mean, you can still up to $900 and not be,
that's right. You just walk away.
So I don't know, but like to your point, you think that would be a pretty much a unanimous decision,
right? Well, and that's been a thing about
bipartisan. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But I know what you meant. Yeah. But I think, what's interesting about that is, of course, because of, especially when it comes to California, obviously there's been a long time of people talking about, Hollywood itself, and
dirty.
what happens there. Certainly when it comes to the adult film industry.
Well, adult film and then just a regular film.
Well,
you look at the Weinsteins. Look at the I forget his name, but the Goonies child star. He's come out recently, talked about all the stuff him.
Yeah.
And his child stars went through that. Some are still alive. They got a little rock band together, but a lot of the other ones didn't make it. They killed themselves. They get into drugs. It's like they're part of this meat grinder with these kids. I don't know.
Yeah. And so, and that is a good point. It's not even just the obvious of the adult film industry, which is absolutely a major driving force for human trafficking around the world. Is that industry, especially now? The more it's because it's so widespread, and it just adds on to another reason. And this is where like organizations like Fight the New Drug, I think, really put a lot of great awareness to it. Is like take the religious aspects out of why you should look at that stuff, which, again, I think on a moral level, right, on a spiritual level, you shouldn't. But even on a practical level, right, morally, in a secular sense, right, is that you are actively participating in the trafficking of people by wanting to consume this product, because that's one of the main things that fuel this industry, right, is throwing these, because of course it's just like they're just churning people out, right, young people young women come in, right, and then go out, right, go in, and after, the age or whatever, you know what I mean, right, and so, it's, again, it's just odd, right, because it should be, like you said, a very black and white issue, right, just like many other, moral things that we have come to understand in the United States, right, whether it's like, racism, right, very black and white, like you should not,
Whoa, I don't see color.
Like you should not, discriminate someone just based on the color of their skin, right? It's pretty straightforward, right? That doesn't make any sense, right? It's dehumanizing, right? You're not, that is, as their dignity as a person, right? That's not okay. Now, I would say even like, the topic of abortion, right, that falls into the same vein, right? There's many people that disagree with that, right? But it falls in the same vein, pretty black and white. And so it's sad that this is turning into like human trafficking being a right-wing issue, which is, it's stupid.
Yeah, it should be a humanitarian issue.
Right.
It should be, if anything, this should unite the whole world. Like country of origin, race, religion, none of that should matter, because this is something that everybody should agree with, that this is bad. And
and that children should be protected.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what's so again but what's really been incredible to see is the organic growth of the film, because most people I know have seen it or are going to see it, right? And when I went to go, I was telling you this, but we took the kids to go see the new Spider-Man movie,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because Sound of Freedom is not an appropriate movie for a 5 and a 4 and a 1-year-old. We went to go see the Spider-Man movie, right? It was the middle of the day, it's matinee, right, on a Saturday, right? But these ladies next to me were walking up to the kiosk to go to the showing of Sound of Freedom that was starting around the same time, right? And it pulled up the screen where you could see all the seats or whatever. Mm-hmm. The only seats were left were right in the front row. That was it.
Middle of the day,
Saturday. Again, obviously Saturday is a big day for movies in general, but the fact that this movie that doesn't have a lot of marketing, doesn't have all these kind of other things that a regular Hollywood film has.
Honestly, the marketing it has going for it right now is every media saying not to.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
and so
like
people are like,
the
I'm going to go see it
age-old
anyway.
thing that people say about the internet. The more you tell the internet not to do something, the internet does its thing.
Yep.
The more you say, delete this picture, stop sharing it, like that's private information, the internet's going to make memes about it, copy, paste, share, send to a friend. You're never going to get it down. The best thing you can do is ignore it and let its wind die out of its own cell. But all you're doing is fueling that fire.
Yeah, because people are seeing out of a spite too. They're like, you know what? I wasn't going to see this maybe, but now I have to go see it.
People are seeing it out of spite. People are seeing it out of just curiosity because they're like, hey, I'm not a QAnon. Like, I've heard about this QAnon thing. Forget Trump, but because of this, I need to go see this so I can be prepared for the next election on what people are going to be talking about. And then they go into it and they're like, holy crap. Like, I didn't realize this was a thing. Like, they're educating people on the other side of the aisle by pushing them into something that they wouldn't have seen otherwise. So I say keep talking about it, CNN.
Yeah, I think that, again, keep doing it, because you're going to push the average person to go see, you know what, I'm going to go see it now.
But to my knowledge, it's based on a true story, and all it's talking about is his, I don't want to say an adventure, but his journey through finding these kids in Colombia, I think it is. Yeah. It's not this giant, like, Illuminati, like, kind of QAnon thing.
He doesn't bust open the door and, like, there's it's not like Joe Biden and Bill Gates or whatever. This isn't like an Epstein
Island thing. That's all. I mean, if you want to go down that road, it's
Epstein
all
Island was real. But
connected.
anyway, yes.
It's all connected, but that's not what this movie's doing. It's one small man's efforts to combat this, and he was kind of successful with a handful of kids, which is interesting because most people think this movie's brand new, but this was recorded a few years ago.
It was ready 5 years ago to be put out.
18, I think, 2018, and they've sat on it. So this isn't new. It's just they finally, I guess, found a company to put it out or whatever. I don't know. But the interesting thing is, I was watching a little clip today with, I think, Tim Ballard, and he was talking about, what's interesting is all the heat this stuff's getting, and they're saying that this is QAnon and blah, blah, blah. He goes, but this is a true story. He goes, these are real kids. They're saying that this is like a conspiracy theory. He goes, these news outlets, they're going to laugh. He goes, when these kids come out who are young adults now, because these kids that have been rescued from the movie, he goes, they're young adults now. And pretty soon they're going to be coming out and telling their own stories. And it's going to be interesting for the news outlets to
would a CNN going to look a kid in a young teenager or young adult in the face like that didn't happen? Be like,
you're a conspiracy theorist. Like what do you know? I lived it.
Yeah, like what are you talking about?
Me and 12 other kids or whatever. Like while you're sitting behind your desk and your green screen and you go home to a house in the hills. I don't know. No. Like these people, I don't know. No, I would say the puppeteers that are behind all these media outlets who are all making them say the same thing, this, I think, is going to fall on their face.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, it's like because it goes to the average person, not only out of spite, but when they hear, it's like, you're like, human trafficking is a QAnon conspiracy. They're like, what are you talking? They're like, again, also, that part of it is, for the average person, QAnon means nothing. And so when you say that, the average person's like, what are you talking about?
But I mean, there's been other movies that have allured to this before. Maybe not necessarily with children, but I think it's just the political state in which we live now.
We like Taken
3 or whatever. It's
the first. I was gonna say, like,
is it
the
first
Taken
one? Yeah, you knew where I was
like,
going.
it's human trafficking.
Get out of my head. You're in my mind.
I'm telling you.
These don't even work. No, yeah, but that's what I was getting at. Like Liam Neeson. That movie was praised.
Yeah, it's
that
about
was
human
a
trafficking.
real thing. It was
because
like
it's real. Yes.
Slavery and everything else. Like, sure, there's kids that are probably involved, but definitely women. Definitely, like more like impoverished nations. People who are taken advantage of. People who are like promised the hope of freedom if you just come or pay $500 and come with me. And next thing you know, they're in this sex ring and they're drugged up and can't get out of it. Nobody said anything about that movie, like it is now, but suddenly these kids are involved. And I don't know. I think they're worried about people are going to go down this rabbit hole. They're going to watch it and they're going to wonder what's next. And then they're going to find these interviews that we already watch with Tim Ballard talking about the elite, talking about adrenochrome, talking about labs that, manufacture these drugs and stuff based on blood. And that's a whole other conspiracy theory. Like, the movie, for what it is, doesn't even get into that tinfoil hat stuff, which I believe, for the record. But they were just talking about the fact that there is a need for child pornography. There's a need for this child sex trafficking. And that's the worst part, because if there wasn't a market for it, it wouldn't make money.
Yeah, and that is the sickening part, is that there are people that want this, right? And that's why it's happening. And again, it's just all it is doing is bringing awareness to again, like, reality and, like, again, what's happening. And that's what's so funny about all of this, is that, again, to what you were bringing up, is that in 2018 this movie was ready and ready to go, right?
They can listen in now.
The radio waves. It was ready to go. Disney, Fox didn't quite put it out, though. Disney purchased, right, 20th Century Fox. Okay? Because that's when, again, they had the rights to X-Men and all these other dumb things, right? So then Disney is put in Disney's lap, and they said, nah, not interested. Okay. Okay, Disney.
Of course they're not.
Good call. How's that turning out for you now? Fucking Bob Iger, bunch of fucking idiots. Anyway, so they say no to it.
They're in their prime season right now, and they've had record lows.
Yeah.
In multiple decades, this is the lowest
It's
attendance.
a 10-year low of amusement park attendance, right? The last 8 films have lost them a combined almost $1 billion, right? And it's probably going to end up being $1 billion because none of these movies are making money.
They're seeing how well this is doing in the box office for a movie that costs next to nothing to make, and they're like...
Yeah, the budget for this film was $14 million. It's already made $40 million, and it's probably going to make another 20 or so million this weekend, right? Because now all the buzz is happening around it, because it came out July 4th, and it's going through this weekend, right? And I think it's supposed to... There's a chance it could continue, but I think after this weekend, it's going to be out of theaters. So everyone's going to be trying to see it, right? So it could even double, right? Which, if it actually pulls in $80 million, it is going to be wild, and they'll probably push to continue it, right? But what's so ironic about that...
Which is interesting because Spider-Man's still in theaters.
Yes, it is.
It's like, so the production company, I guess, has to pay to try to keep it in theaters.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
but I think like AMC with all this weird stuff going on, I think everybody wants it out.
Well, they don't like it that it's... No one is liking that it's doing well, which is, again, just makes no sense. But what's so ironic about it, too, is that you have, of course, Indiana Jones and the Diarrhea of Destiny... the Dial of Destiny.
It sucks because I really like Indiana Jones.
Well, what's weird about this film anyway is that there's only 3 Indiana Jones films, so I don't even know how there's an Indiana Jones 5 because there's only 3. So it doesn't really make any sense. But that's neither here nor there.
I think we talked about this. Did we?
Maybe.
I like Kingdom of Crystal Skull.
I don't know what that is.
I like Shia LaBeouf. It was kind of fun. People didn't like the whole alien aspect, but
I don't remember seeing a 7-foot German being eaten alive by giant ants.
Was that in it?
Yeah, that is in it.
So it's all
very odd. Anyway,
it's fond memories.
Very very weird movie. But yeah, no, the first 3 Indiana Jones films are like perfection.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's so funny about it is that this film is like a $300 million movie. It's like almost the most expensive movie of all time.
Well, that's how much it costs to bring Harrison back.
Yeah, well, that's $300 million, and that's not including marketing and all that other kind of stuff, right? So the movie has to make, I think, to make profit at least $800 million.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it'll cross over $600 million because people don't give a shit about it, partially because it's bad, but then also people just don't care. They just don't care, right? And also, Sound of Freedom beat Indiana Jones this past weekend. Right, it beat it. Right, it made more money than Indiana Jones, which is insane. Right, so a major Hollywood blockbuster, right, couldn't stand a chance. Right, and it just shows you that again, these people get paid millions and millions of dollars, especially marketing companies, to be able to see through, right, the grapevine, and be able to see what people are actually interested in. These Hollywood executives should get their money back because I don't know what they're doing. I like the fact they think that these things are popular is just so bizarre to me, and they hate things that are actually popular.
That's true,
right? Because and what's even funnier is you have that just came out, I think yesterday or today, something like that, right? The Mission Impossible 7 or whatever, which is probably going to be $1 billion movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because it's just an action movie, right? And people love action, right? And so Tom Cruise is going to own the summer, just like he owned last summer, because of Top Gun Maverick, the greatest movie of all time. And it's just sad, right? Ultimately, it's just disappointing because it's, again, these should be very easy, very simple things to talk about and agree upon, and we can't because the political and cultural climate is so toxic that we can't. You know what I mean? It's just stupid. You know what I mean? And there's no other word to describe it other than that, I think, because it's gotten to a point where it's just
ignorance. It's like, which I think this movie is bringing a lot of people from the other side and bringing awareness to it. I'm not saying they're going to switch teams, but this is an issue that everybody should be behind. So I'm not saying you're going to switch your choice of vote. I'm just saying
you don't have to. You know what I mean? To your point, you don't have to.
Yeah, exactly. But so I think this movie is doing its job in that respect. So let it keep working.
Yeah, and so I would say let's pray that they're able to continue its run in the theaters because of course the more people see it, the more awareness comes to this, and also it will show. I think there are forces, whether in Hollywood or other parts of media, that this kind of stuff will captivate audiences. Whether it's talking about these things, making movies, documentaries, whatever about these things, TV shows. It's important for stuff like this to be successful because of things like that, right? I mean, the studio that put it out is called like Angel Studio, whatever. Never heard of it before, all kind of stuff, right? But the success gives a studio like that power. And what other things could this studio bring out, right? That are impactful, right? Not even impactful like this, but could be as simple as coming out with the newest action franchise that doesn't try to, scold you or belittle you as an audience member.
It's just good to see more stuff like this coming out other than just like Daily Wire try to stuff.
Correct.
I think the movie like this does pave the way for Daily Wire and the movies and projects that they're trying to come out with. It helps them out. But a movie like that Daily Wire would put out would never get the type of feedback that Sound of Freedom is getting. But Sound of Freedom is helping those future projects out in more ways than one.
Right, exactly. I think there's a good symbiotic relationship that's growing from that. So we wanted to highlight this. Again, we kind of went, I think we talked a little bit longer than we thought we would. But I think, it's
important. It's relevant right now. So
it is very relevant, and I think it points to the biggest thing that what we're saying is you need to go see it. If you haven't had a chance to see it, right? Obviously, we haven't had a chance to, right, at the time of this recording. But my hope is that we have someone that lined up to watch our kids, so that Christine and I can go take time to see it, because I think it's important. But we want to get into, again, this inspired, right? That we want to talk about, our favorite conspiracy theories. So we want to maybe lighten the mood a little bit. I don't know. We'll see what kind of conspiracy theories.
I put the hat back on. I'm ready.
Yeah. So get ready. Alex Jones has entered the building. Okay. We want to lighten it up. again, from what we're talking about. But, again, Sound of Freedom being successful, good. Go see it if you haven't. So you have a list, right? Usually I'm making the notes, right? But you have gone through the notes. Uh-oh. What's happening? Stand by. Oh, okay, yeah. Actually, yeah, I need a little.
Now that we got through the serious stuff.
Yeah.
Just fix my hat.
Yeah, I got you.
Can't let the aliens get in.
That's right. So in this,
I recently saw Signs.
like for the first time or just recently?
No, like just rewatched it again.
So
Brittany
good.
had never seen it. So
Really?
to watch someone's
Homeschoolers.
reaction
Homeschoolers.
the first time when they've never seen it, I was like, it was more of a treat for me to watch and like look over at her and like know what's coming,
Yeah.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah. When M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong was actually a pretty good director.
Yeah, that was like top tier M. Night.
Yeah. So yeah, tonight we're enjoying. In case if you're wondering, we're enjoying Bonfire Bourbon Whiskey. This is a special out of College Station, Texas, Aggieland for some of those who know where that is, right? Quite good. So if you're in Texas, I don't know. I mean, they may have it outside of Texas, but if you're in Texas and you like bourbon,
It's not bad.
Not bad. I would give it a
7.
6.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth the buy. It's worth trying.
But I mean, like, that's out of like every bourbon whiskey I've ever had.
Yeah. You know what's funny? Okay, we should start trying different whiskeys or even liquor, and we should just rate it out of 10 whenever we have a new one.
I mean, I've never told them that, I don't think, but
Do you want to tell them?
early podcast days, maybe people I've let it slip, but there was talk that we would do like either like a bi-weekly bit that would upload like a clip thing or like almost like a second channel where it's called Whiskey Talks.
Mm-hmm.
And we would drink whiskey and either talk about risky subjects or just rate whiskey. We were up in the air about it.
And now we just do both on camera for YouTube. So
usually we just,
yeah, we usually just say, we're pretty laissez-faire. But worth it. I think it's worth the buy. And if you're someone that is partial to
College
Texas
Station A&M,
yeah, it's even more worth it.
Yep.
Which I cannot wait. College football is around the corner. I'm so excited. It's the one thing I can enjoy. Whatever, it's one thing I can enjoy. So, but anyway, so yeah, so you got a list of a couple of conspiracy theories. I don't know how many of these we'll get through, but we're gonna talk to at least about a few of them.
We got a few minutes, so let's go.
Yeah.
Is there one you want to start off with first?
Well,
just off the top of your mind,
Okay.
is there anyone that like comes to mind that kind of
here's my favorite conspiracy theory is we already kind of talked about it, JFK assassination.
Really?
Okay. The reason why
you're going
it's my
like
favorite,
typical conspiracy theory. Like when people Google conspiracy theory, JFK is like number one.
Okay, here's why, right? And actually the JFK / Marilyn Monroe, okay?
With was it Robert Kennedy's running?
Mm-hmm.
And that was like JFK was his uncle, I want to say.
They were brothers.
No. The one that's debating on running now.
Oh, now. Yes. He was the nephew of JFK. That's correct. Yes.
And he was saying, I think something the other day, saying that like finally we're coming to the year. We're like a year away from all those classified documents to be released. So we'll finally get the truth.
They still won't, I bet you. Right. And here's
they'll
why.
Find some way. Or they'll do it like on the cusp of like some major event like Ocean Gate or something like that. Sorry, the hat's on. Like just to like draw your attention and then release it. It was like in 2020 during COVID and suddenly all this UFO stuff got declassified.
I know, right?
Like, we're not only locked inside.
Yeah.
Taking 6 boosters saying that suddenly
Don't look
now.
at this. Look at aliens. There's aliens. You were right. You were right the whole time.
Yeah, it's a little sleight of hand. But anyways,
now it makes me think that aliens maybe don't exist because the government is saying they do.
You don't watch Joe Rogan, do you?
I haven't recently.
That's like half his show. That's the
I know.
stuff.
I love Joe Rogan though. I haven't listened to him in a while. I
just noticed our hats are perfectly going opposite directions. If we turn it around, they could almost touch tips.
You never want to touch tips. But no, so mine is actually the JFK / Marilyn Monroe because they kind of go hand in hand in my opinion. Okay, so
well, he pissed off the mob, didn't he?
I believe, I don't think it's the mob. I 100% believe the CIA is involved in both deaths. I 100% believe that. And that's also why I think it's reason why they are so keen in it not being declassified.
Right. So Grassy Knoll.
The lookers who capped Kennedy from the grassy knoll sure as shit were.
Multiple men Eyewitness confirmed. CIA.
Yes. I think who's the
But why?
who's the considered who was the alleged shooter? What was his name?
Uh,
Lee Harvey Oswald. That's
John
what
Wilkes
it was.
Booth. Just kidding.
Lee Harvey
That was
Oswald.
Lincoln. Yeah, Lee Harvey Oswald. He was in the
And
book conservatory or whatever.
Yeah, and it just so happens, right? He was shot and killed, right, before he could say anything.
Typical.
Yeah.
It's
So
like the Clintons.
so again,
I'm just sorry.
Ooh, that's a
Sorry.
good one. So number one, I do think, right, Christine and I were watching a documentary or something, right, talking about Marilyn Monroe's death and just all the circumstances of how it wouldn't have made sense.
Like Princess Diana.
Oh, that's another good one. I do believe the royal family wanted her killed. I believe that because Marilyn Monroe was a known lover of President Kennedy, that it revealed to her things that she should not have known. The CIA was afraid that she was going to talk about it, and so therefore they took matters into their own hands, right, and got rid of her. And I also believe that for JFK, the reason why the CIA wanted to get rid of him is he wanted to dismantle the military-industrial complex, right? He did not like
He also
any of
wanted
that.
to take the Federal Reserve away.
Yes.
Go back to a gold standard.
Yes. Right, so all these different things, right? And so
Which we're still on, by the way.
money printer go brrr.
Make-believe money.
It's just digits, man. Just digits on a computer. That's all it is. That's a busted the window after that one. So I think
no magic bullet. No.
I believe the CIA was like, we need to just gotta get rid of him.
Right, because that's the crazy thing about the magic bullet is like if Lee Harvey did it, how does it go through the way it did?
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense, and I think the mafia
shot a
being
pumpkin?
involved is too. Huh?
You ever shot a pumpkin with a firearm or
No.
seen videos?
No.
It's the exit wound that has all the blowout.
Right.
In the video, it's like if it came from the book conservatory, it was the wrong way.
Right. Doesn't it blow out the back of his head? Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So it means that someone would have shot. Boom, just.
Which Lee Harvey shot from behind, and it went down his neck, shot out through his wrist, apparently. And if you ever seen like those computer
generation diagram. Yeah, you're like, that doesn't make any sense from the science that I have been taught to understand. That makes no sense. So again, my personal opinion is that our own government was involved in the assassination of a president because he was just making too many problems.
So if Trump gets reelected in 2024 or DeSantis, we should write an appeal to see the black book so we can know what really happened.
Yeah. And again, if it's the mafia,
I've seen National Treasure. I know there's a black book.
that
Or
is
the
true.
secret book or whatever it's called.
It is true.
Because why would Disney lie?
Nick Cage found it. Now again, I have heard the mafia side of it. Would that surprise me either? No, but I just don't think
The fact
that's
that the
as
mafia
likely.
could take out a president.
Oh yeah, no,
I believe it, though.
absolutely. Especially at that time.
Oh, dude, that was
I don't-
Untouchables time.
Yeah. Oh, that's a pretty good movie.
That
Pretty
was
good movie. Yeah.
Kevin Costner
Yeah.
before he went woke.
R.I.P.
All right, one of mine, newer, lesser-known conspiracy theories, probably to some of y'all out there, chemtrails. The lines in the sky. It said if you did a little digging in other parts of the world, not U.S. basically, the jetliners don't have that. There's people who will, like in Italy and stuff, will look up and you won't see the vapor trails if they truly are vapor. But if you go down the rabbit hole of chemtrails, I think it was 1987 or something like that, there's actually a U.S. patent that came out. Patent number, in fact, if you want to look it up, 4686605. And it talks about the fact of atmospheric dropping of heavy alkali metals. Like, I forget what the metals are. I saw it earlier, but I don't want to butcher it. But it's like benzonite or benzamine or something, and a bunch of others. But basically, it's for cloud seeding. You make cumulonimbus clouds or whatever by dropping this and putting those heavy alkali metals up there. And basically, I don't want to say terraforming, but you're
manipulating the weather. Yeah.
There was a Vietnam pilot that even came out years ago and said that during Vietnam, that they were using the same technology and allowing the monsoon season to last longer to hurt the Viet Cong that were hiding in the jungle. They extended the monsoon season.
Welcome to the rice fields, motherfucker.
Basically. But yeah, so basically it's...
Oh, man.
And it's funny because if you think of all that stuff that they're putting up in the atmosphere, is like, they wouldn't worry about us and our carbon footprint, but like that's more likely to lead to the whole climate change, if anything.
It is trying to actively change the climate. Well, I think also... like the Chinese government is openly trying to do the same thing with technology.
Well, at least they're open about it. I mean, if you go down, there's service members in the National Guard who are part of the chemtrail teams, and they have their flight suits, and it has the badges and with the chemtrails on it, and it says like things about chemtrails or this or that. So there's like, I don't want to say secret departments, but there's like divisions that are dedicated to this. I've seen inside of planes where they've got the tubes and everything else, and it's for that, but government still won't say yes or no to it. And you know probably why? So maybe if they were doing this and they wanted to create more rain, help prevent droughts, sure, all good things in theory, right? Prevent something like interstellar. The problem is those alkali metals are raining back down, and they're causing things such as like cancer. They're toxic. They're getting in the food supply, water supply. Like it could be hurting fisheries. Like the repercussions, we don't even know.
Yeah, the chemtrail thing is I've always thought is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things that like I'm not sure if I'm 100% in that camp, but like if part of it's like if it came out tomorrow, like definitive evidence that that was happening and these were the side effects and that we could see that was happening, it wouldn't shock me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's one of those things that doesn't shock me because the government has always been in the game of doing very peculiar or odd things.
I used to believe that the internet had its people at heart, but no. The government has the government's heart at heart.
Oh yeah, the government doesn't care about you. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, if you even look at how we got involved in Vietnam, like the Gulf of Tonkin, right, is an actual false flag operation, and it's been proven to actually be a false flag operation to get us involved in the Vietnam War.
Like weapons of mass destruction.
Correct. I'm looking at you, George Bush. What a dick.
You want to talk about 9/11? Nah, we'll leave that one alone today. I got a lot on that one, but I'm leaving that one alone today.
Okay, look, I'll just say this about that. Do I believe it was an inside job?
100%.
Do you really?
100%.
Oh, man.
100%.
I know there's a lot of things that point to it being an inside job.
They never would have fallen. It was detonation.
I don't know, man.
Were there real planes that crashed? Some people say yes, some people say no.
Man, I don't know. That one's so weird, man.
And then you look at the videos now.
It's so weird.
Okay, so some planes got hijacked. Okay, even if that was all true, and the videos weren't doctored and planes really hit, and all those Americans died for our own government. So the fact that people died, I'm not saying is made up. I'm like, it was a tragedy. My point is who's truly at fault. Yeah, man, I don't know. Like, if you look into like what a plane's made of and what the building's made of, and the plane would have got ripped to shreds when it hit, and even if the fuel ignited, it doesn't burn hot enough for a total collapse like that.
I know. I've seen all.
We're talking about thermite,
those too, man.
The fact that the World Trade Centers, there was an attack on them a few years before in the basement with car bombs, and that wasn't successful. So they re-upped and they did this whole plane thing. Look at the Pentagon attack. If you watch the frame by frame, it's not a plane. It's clearly a missile. And then you look at the pictures of the wreckage. There's not even a single plane part that's detectable.
The Pentagon one is weird.
It was a freaking missile.
It's weird.
And why? Why? Because the day of the attacks, we were looking into what? An audit of the budget of missing how much money?
$2 trillion.
It's with the T, man, of missing money. And suddenly we had this tragedy that they forget about that. It was supposed to, and where were all the documents? Where was all the evidence? Even Clinton stuff, I want to say. Maybe I'm reaching, but I want to say that's where my mind goes. Pentagon. The part that was hit. all that stuff gone. Poof. We talked about coincidence earlier. Once, okay, you start seeing multiple coincidences, it's not a coincidence. It's orchestrated.
Yeah, I mean, the 9/11 one is really weird. It's really weird for me because again, I've certainly gone into some of the deep dives and like conspiracy theories of, or I'll say theories of what happened. What's really weird is that because I was watching a documentary on with Christina on 9/11 and what this documentary started with was going back into the 80s when we were getting involved with Osama bin Laden and all that kind of stuff in Afghanistan, and we were actually aiding. I can't remember. Was it the Mujahideen? I think that's what it was. I can't remember 100%. And arming these people, right? Because at the time it benefited us.
We made them what they were.
Yeah, and
but
so
not only that, like when the SEAL team went in, I think there was something about where Osama was saying, "I didn't do it," and I think they put him down.
Well, even the Osama bin Laden raid and killing is also very odd too, because there was never any. And this is really hard because I know like SEAL Team 6, like they I've heard interviews from the guys, and to say that they're liars, I think
it feels unpatriotic.
I feel very uncomfortable doing that, but at the same time, the way that it was treated, like putting him in a body bag and dumping him over the side of an aircraft carrier in the middle of the Indian Ocean, like
I thought they burned him or something, but yeah, it was like.
It was very odd. Like,
there was no way for the American people to confirm. Cops have body cam footage. These people, they flew in on a unclassified new tech stealth chopper that they had to detonate so other people wouldn't get the tech. You're telling me they didn't go in with video footage for the American public to see?
Yeah.
Or if they did, why isn't it shown?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of odd things surrounding the involvement of the United States in the Middle East. And I think, what's really interesting too, that kind of connects that is that Saddam Hussein, if I understand correctly at the time, also was trying to get away from, utilizing the U.S. dollar, right, as far as trade for like oil and stuff. I'm like talking like off the off memory because I don't have this stuff in front of me. But when you look back at it, there was no real reason at all for the U.S. of invading Iraq. Like it made no sense.
Like Afghanistan's one thing. Next thing you know, there's this new bad guy.
Well, yeah, it was like we're going to Afghanistan to go after Osama bin Laden, right? But then we found out he's in Pakistan, and I believe there was like maybe like 2 or 3 times where the U.S. could have gotten him, and we just didn't. Mm-hmm. And it's like we're talking about the most elite military in the world, and we just couldn't get him when he was within arm's reach. Like it's very odd. And the U.S. is, but again, we're seeing it now in the Ukraine, right? The U.S.'s involvement in these countries, right? For no other reason other than benefiting, right, the elites, right? I mean, you have like, during their time in the Middle East, right? You had Joe Biden's family. That goes back to
the whole Sound of Freedom thing, because if you're looking down that trail, a lot of the trafficking is coming out of Ukraine. Mm-hmm. Is what the conspiracy is. Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at the Burisma and all that kind of stuff, and the Hunter Biden, and where the money's coming from, and I mean, dude, we literally last week found out that cocaine was left and found in the West Wing of the White House.
I know.
And that place has more cameras and it's tighter than a tick's ass.
And we don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know. They know.
Yeah. Oh, they know. Yeah.
I mean, they used to talk about how many Diet Cokes Trump has and about how that was a problem. But there's Coke found in the White House, and news outlets are joking about it. Like, one blow too many, and they're making one-liners about it.
Yeah.
Like,
it's just,
whose was it? People should get patted down and checked. This should be the most secure building in all of America. And you're telling me people are going in, and I think we all know whose it was. Maybe he's got a laptop missing or two, but that's just me.
It's just a lot of these things are very it's just bizarre, and it makes you really look back on those times, and it really makes you kind of step back and think, like, again, I would say maybe like the anti-war liberals in the early 2000s were actually right. When they said our involvement in the Middle East was actually really bad and actually didn't make a lot of sense. And I think we were blinded by a sense of patriotism, in a naive sense, because of course, when you look at the attack on 9/11, the American people wanted revenge, right?
Oh,
we
yeah.
wanted retribution
we were
for what had happened. We wanted someone to suffer for what had happened. And the finger was pointed at, the Middle East.
Land.
And, the American people said fine and rained hellfire on them.
If you say so, big brother.
Yeah.
And we just went.
And we just went with it, right? And, of course, that even brought upon things like the Patriot Act, right? And all the consequences that has brought upon the American people. I guess what's hard for me, as far as coming to the conclusion that 9/11 was an inside job, was that people in the highest levels of government were willing to sacrifice thousands of innocent American people for something that's not really that important. Now, human beings have done terrible things throughout history. Mm-hmm. So if it were true, you could just add it on top of the list of human atrocities that have happened.
Money, man. Follow the money. I've been saying it for years. Follow the money and who's got dirt on who. You either play ball at those levels of government, or
I agree. I do definitely. I certainly agree on certain aspects of that for sure.
If you don't say yes, you'll be replaced.
Yeah, they will destroy your life and get rid of you. There's no question of that, and they don't have to kill you to do that.
These elected officials, if you believe in such things, they are just meatbags.
Well, it's not the elected. It's the unelected bureaucrats and bureaucracies within the government.
It's the lobbyists. It's the companies. It's the elites behind it. It's your Vanguards, your BlackRocks, your things like that that are pulling the strings. Like, I mean, the joke always was that when Biden took big stage, that Obama was going to be in his ear in the basement telling him what to say and what to do. Like, but who was telling Obama what to say or do? It's like that's a joke, but what there may be a shred of truth to it is like these people who are elected to office, you think they just one day they get elected, they go on a bus for a couple months and they get voted in and they get sworn to secrecy and they got all this ultimate power? No, there's probably something. I mean, if you want to think Wizard of Oz, there's the wizard behind the curtain still.
Yeah.
Like,
well, think about this. Alex Soros, George Soros's son or grandson or whatever, right, has, I think within like the last few months gone to the White House for 20 different meetings, right? I mean, okay, what does that tell you, right? I mean, he's a very influential person on the not just the United States, but like on the world stage, right? Having intimate meetings multiple times with the president of the United States, like that means something. Just like, Jeffrey Epstein meeting with Bill Clinton, right, multiple times in the White House. Like that means
when they
something.
have the evidence and they have the flight logs, why are we not looking into that? Why is nobody?
Why aren't the customers? Why aren't they #release the list or whatever?
Speaking of the list, one person that I got on my conspiracy is on the list.
Oh, I think I probably know who it is.
Bill Gates.
The source of many conspiracies.
Have you heard about one of the recent conspiracy theories? So the Bill Gates Foundation apparently was, from the labs, was working on genetically modified mosquitoes.
Yes, dude. Oh, I saw this. Yes, I've seen these.
Yeah, they're working on genetically modified mosquitoes that they were going to release into 11 different countries in the hopes of like eradicating malaria, another like mosquito-borne illnesses, because these, like, I guess the way it would work is these genetically modified mosquitoes would go and they'd like mate with the other ones and they would like kill off the disease, or just they wouldn't be able to mate or something like that. The problem is in the US, these mosquitoes were released in Florida. We have not seen a case of malaria in the United States, not a single case in over 20 years. From 2003 to 2023, there's not been one single documented case. Well, since they've released these mosquitoes, 2 weeks later, the CDC has reported 5 documented cases of malaria, 4 in Florida and 1 in Texas. Now, these news sites and stuff, if you go research it, they talk about what the claim is and what the facts are, and they've said no. And the Bill Gates Foundation's come out and said they have nothing to do with this, and that there's no way because the mosquitoes can't carry malaria. But again, we go back to what we say all the time. What is that? Coincidences. 20 years?
Yeah.
Not one case. And then 2 weeks after you release a genetically modified mosquito that's supposed to do what? Stop malaria. And suddenly you have these cases. Now, I'm no expert, but I've seen a lot of movies about apocalypse and everything else, like 28 Days Later, things like that. When you try to mess with genes and DNA and God level stuff, I mean, we're just humans. We're playing with fire, and sometimes we're going to get burned, but I call it like I see it.
Yeah, Bill Gates is a very interesting character, right? Because he's also very much involved with things like the creation of like lab-grown meat. He's the largest private agricultural landowner in the United States.
Mm-hmm. Second to China, probably.
Probably. Just very odd guy. He has Bill Gates definitely has a God complex to him that he carries. Like he clearly thinks he's fucking better than every other person.
Oh yeah, like greater than Fauci, like God complex.
Oh, there is no one greater than Lord Fauci. God, don't you miss seeing him on TV all the time?
Speaking of Fauci, like the FDA, I'm not even going to talk about it, but we've talked about it on the show before. It's like red dye 40 and those other dyes, like they've been banned in countless other countries, known to cause like behavioral issues, aggression, learning disabilities, like thyroid problems, possibly even cancer. And yet it's in freaking Fruit Loops in 90% of like the aisles in our grocery store.
The easiest way to prevent that, just stay out of the middle aisles.
Anything
just
in a box.
On the outside,
typically.
Just stay on the outside of the grocery store. You're going to be all right. Stick with the produce, the meat.
But then you go look at Go-Gurt or something like that, or yogurt, the animals, you could have it in it too. I mean, we need to start dyeing things. Like if you go to Aldi, I was seeing some stuff today, is like if you go to Aldi, the Aldi brand stuff will not have food dyes. They granted, Aldi may carry Doritos. The Doritos may have red dye 40, but the off-brand Aldi's brand will not.
Correct.
Go use things like carrot juice and paprika to color it, but they won't use red dye 40. So there's options out there. These corporations.
You should go to Aldi, by the way. It's a great place.
It's hit or miss, in my opinion, but it still is good. Good deals. The thing is,
when it comes to meat, you got to go to like a HEB.
Aldi's meat is rough.
It's not good.
I'm not saying it's bad, but there's no discount to be had there.
No, you should just go and pay for good meat.
Yeah. So my point is, if there's alternatives out there, and carrot and like paprika are your options, that's not even that expensive. The question you got to ask yourself is, why are the other companies, if their hand's not forced, why are they still using it? Because it costs. Does the government, the FDA, I mean, if the FDA is so worried about carcinogens and everything that hurts you, why have they not flagged it? Why have they not banned it? I don't know.
Yeah. But like you said, basically stay away from stuff in boxes at the grocery store, and you're pretty much good.
Because, I mean, the thing about the boxes is like things are supposed to have a shelf life of a couple days, if not a week, tops, before they expire. Unless it's a really good dry good. But the thing is, so much has preservatives. Like when you go to a store and your sell-by date's a week and a half away, and that's just a sell-by, that's not even like when it expires, you got to start asking what's in it to keep it from going bad. You can go across the country and you go to like Italy, you can have like whole grain pasta, and people are like skinny as hell. Like people from the U.S. go over there and lose weight.
Well, yeah, or they people with gluten intolerances and things like that can eat these sort of things in other countries, right? And so what does that tell us about?
It's talking about preservatives. It's talking about pesticides. It's talking about what's in the soil.
Man.
What's in the atmosphere, the air, chemtrails, that's circling back down. Like it's, again, They put bread on a counter.
Wash your vegetables and fruit.
They make fresh bread. What happens? The day old bread is sold on a discount or thrown out or given to the poor. Bread won't last that long. You buy a French baguette here. You can leave it on the counter for like 2 weeks. It won't even mold. You're like, oh, it's still good. Tastes fresh. Why? Those are questions you got to ask yourself.
Yeah.
Just saying. I got a few more. I can keep going, but I know we're at that time. Did you have one last one?
I think it's a good place to end it.
I think so too. Hey, look into the whole pyramids of Antarctica. That's another good one. But
what?
I'll let you do. What?
Antarctica is a weird place.
There's a worldwide treaty. World War III is never going to happen unless somebody breaks the Antarctica Treaty. You got to make you wonder what they're hiding. See, I'm not a flat earther, and in fact, I believe the Earth is round. So when all these flat earthers are going,
Is the moon landing fake?
No, I think the moon landing was real. Maybe not at the time of which, we were publicizing, or whatever the word is, to the rest of the world because it was a space race.
Yeah.
But we've definitely been there. I'm not the type of person to think we haven't. But, I mean...
Was it perhaps filmed in a studio?
Maybe.
Is that what you're saying?
I think we've been to the moon. We've gone to space. We've had the tech. I don't think that's the issue. Maybe what we've been shown wasn't real at the time because, it was a space race with Russia. It was a Cold War type of stuff. But maybe it was the best thing America could do at the time was get Stanley Kubrick over. I don't know. But, yeah, pyramids, Antarctica. You can go Google Maps, and there's a couple mountains that looks four-sided, pointed at the top suspiciously. They're covered in snow. And Antarctica is really, really hush-hush. You're not supposed to go there. Some people think it's the edge of the firmament or the edge of the earth. It's the wall. Some people think that, basically when the earth shifted at the last ice age or something, or due to a cosmic impact, that the crust of the earth rotated. So it went from being a rainforest type biome to cold. So it froze over, but that it's protected underneath, like 3 miles underneath or something. And they think that's where the UFOs and the aliens are, different dimensions. I mean, there's a whole rabbit hole.
Yeah, well, that even goes to like the pyramids in Egypt, right? Because I've watched a lot. Joe Rogan has talked about it a lot.
Graham Bell and all them.
Yeah, it's like, because it's true. It's like when they break it down, like when you see the size of stones and how people would have
where
to
they pull them from. Where
how was it possible?
Mm-hmm.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Now you got to think things back then didn't happen overnight. Like we're used to a building being built in a year and a half. These things took 100 years for one pyramid, but still.
But also, what technology maybe did they have?
These things are like laser cuts.
Down? Yeah.
Like water can't even go between because the stones are cut so well that they're just perfect fits.
Right. How?
Some people think it was ancient civilization that was advanced, and due to in
other ways, yeah,
apocalyptic like event that was erased, and that's all that's left. Who knows? There's a lot of people who are talking about that the pyramids, they're not even tombs. They're like conductors and things like that.
Right, for electromagnetic fields and stuff like that. Yeah.
And if you go into them, like, it's a lot of weird stuff. And now the Egyptian government, like, if you even talk about it, they, like, ban you from the country and they won't even let you come. Like,
well, I guess there you go.
Point is, ask questions, people.
Now.
Don't be afraid to.
I want to talk more about
your curiosities.
This Antarctica conspiracy.
Look into it.
Well, no, maybe let's do kind of like a part 2 next week. I want to
look into it, and I'll do some more research. It's just been like a little side hobby. I don't remember everything verbatim.
I love conspiracy theories. I do. I love them.
But with I will say, since 2020, with everything coming out weekly, might you add, about UFOs and sightings and this and that. Antarctica. Why are we not, as a civilian, allowed to go there? And if we are, through like private tours, it's only certain parts, like the coast. Usually, are rarely allowed to make landfall. Ask yourself why. I don't know. It may pique your interest.
That's very interesting.
Well, I got to take this off now. But that's all, folks.
My brain waves are like freaking out. So that was what we wanted to do this week. We wanted to take a journey into the unknowns. Partially, we had no other ideas, but then also, we were kind of joking about Sound of Freedom, and and the fact that it's about, nothing but a, QAnon conspiracy theory. So there you go. But, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You can find us on Apple and Spotify. Later.